Hello, hello, and welcome to Saturday Soundbites. I'm your host, Veronica Sofer. Thrilled to be here with you again on another fantastic Saturday to talk about all the things I love, especially visibility strategies, public relations and marketing, advertising, branding, networking, all the things you need to grow your business, get seen, and get connected to your target audience. I've got another fantastic guest for you today. But before we get started, I want to make sure we take care of some housekeeping. If you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes of Saturday Sound Bites. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you drop us some comments because my guests and I would certainly love to connect. So we'll go ahead and bring on our guests today. I have the amazing Christian Escobedo joining us this morning. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Veronica. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So I'm so excited about this conversation just because I know that as our audience is thinking about growing their visibility and getting seen and taking it to the next level, you've got some great insight as a mindset coach on how to use technology to make that happen. But before we really dive into that, Christian, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your origin story. How did you get to be this fantastic mindset coach working with some really amazing clients?
Thanks. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So it was about 7 years ago. I found my way into entrepreneurship out of a really, really bad divorce. And just like most people that go through something like that, it's just absolutely devastating. And that led me onto the track of self-development. And that caused me to open my first business. From there, I realized that no matter what I did, it all came down to energy and mindset, the capacity to handle wealth. It wasn't necessarily like the business or the tools or the resources that were bringing me wealth. It was the internal energy that I carried when I approached that thing. And so that set us on the path. We did a world tour. I had a mentor at the time. I learned everything that I could about energy, mindset, quantum physics applied to self-development and business. And then we did a world tour, and I kind of had my aha moment as I was teaching on stage in front of 150 people. And we were using this internal technology or energetic technology. And I was showing them what's possible with that. And the room just absolutely gasped. They were like, whoa, this is crazy. I kind of felt like Neo from the Matrix, like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah.
And so from there, we dove, into serving as hard as we could, helping people with their mindset, helping people with their energy behind approaching business, approaching wealth, approaching freedom. And that led us into, because my mentor, he's a software engineer. And so a lot of these things relate, like the software can be kind of looked at as like the external, and then the energetics and the mindset can be looked at as like the internal way to create something. And
Yeah.
software is like the closest thing to magic. If you think about it, you run a software, it executes something, and then you get a result from that. And so that kind of concept led us down the path of building systems while simultaneously fixing mindset and energy for high-level entrepreneurs, 6, 7, and even 8-figure, and having them go to the next level, just specifically using technology.
That's amazing because you're speaking my love language here, the whole idea of mindset. And you said a couple of things that really I want to touch on real quick before we get into the nuts
Sure.
and bolts of it. But this idea that being comfortable with abundance and being comfortable with or the way I heard it was being comfortable with confidence almost. How does that really play into the technical parts of your business, right? Like, how does that even relate? I feel like if you're not even aware that that's something that you
Right.
can't even be present to it, much less grow it.
Yeah, you said something important there. Present to it. So most people are searching for confidence or searching for something that would feel like an action that's not necessarily there yet for them. And I would encourage everyone to focus on calling instead of confidence at first, because the calling is going to move you forward to develop the confidence required to go to that next step. So what is that calling for you? Why are you doing this thing? What's that reason behind it? And follow that pathway from a place of curiosity as opposed to attachment to the result, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really powerful. And I think that sometimes we get, especially if we've been able to launch a business, right? Say we've left corporate America, we've launched an online business, we're an entrepreneur in the truest sense of the word, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden we've plateaued. How do you get people to the next level? What does that look like?
This is really common. In fact, you can use the idea of, or the concept or the story around a high level sports or athlete career professional.
Hmm.
And a lot of them do really well, but a lot of them, you'll hear stories about this where they go bankrupt.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same idea with entrepreneurship is entrepreneurs will hit a glass ceiling, right? And they're stuck there. And the question that we have to really understand is, why is that? If you track back all the steps, you would realize that it's your capacity. So, in other words, your thermostats to manage and handle either wealth or success, whatever that is. And so it's hit that glass ceiling. And no matter what you do, it's kind of hard to crack that. Well,
Hmm.
you can actually expand your ability, your capacity to handle that using energetic technology or internal technology. And that's what we do with our clients. We work on, okay, where are they at right now with their business? You'll see a lot of lottery winners as well. They'll come into a whole bunch of money, right?
Yeah.
This happens with an entrepreneur. They'll be very successful, and all of a sudden, boom, it all comes crashing down. And that's because their capacity to handle that wasn't there.
And how does that, what does energetic work look like? So for those of us who aren't in the woo woo, and a lot of my listeners are, so
Mhm.
feel free to use the language that's appropriate. How, what does that work look like? What does energetic work look like? So we know sometimes people have this persona that, oh, someone's dealing with a health issue, so they've really have driven themselves to learn more about whatever, but then they don't translate that into their business life. How does that look? What does it look like?
Right. Yeah, that's a really good question. So we've codified it, meaning we've turned it into a scientific process. So a lot of the energy work or the healing work that you see nowadays is very powerful, very effective, but a lot of people don't know the underlying mechanics of that. And so there's
Mhm.
two aspects. Number one, this is the most powerful, which is going to be the subconscious mind. We can break that down into, or to understand the subconscious mind is basically your your cellular memory. So every single cell holds memory. That memory is programmed. That program runs your reality up to
Mhm.
90% ish, right? So that's aspect number one, subconscious. Aspect number two is conscious. So this is traditional kind of like law of attraction, mindset work, those types of things, positive thinking, but under the circumstances that is truthful positive thinking and not inflation of or psychology inflated. So in other words, like I'm not going to jump up on stage saying I'm a millionaire if I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm going to use what I have already in place, building blocks to then get to the millionaire status, right? So in other words, we break these down into two categories. We focus on the subconscious. There's two tools that we use. Number one, if you're familiar with chiropractic work, there's
Mhm.
something called applied kinesiology, which is muscle testing. So using your body to test for different beliefs. You could actually do this right now if you were to stand kind of loose, and you want to have be hydrated as well. If you ask a question or I should say make a statement like my name is Christian, my body will move forward, right? And then I could say yes out loud, my body will move forward. I could say no, my body will move backwards. And so you could test for different beliefs by making that statement out loud. And then from there, we do the energy work, which is really unique for, we've done this in groups of, like I said, 150 people, where we have them stand up, we have them test for beliefs, and then we shift the belief and they could test again to make sure that it has shifted.
Right.
And they can come back to that and retest again later on in the future to make sure that it's shifted. So we use those two tools for subconscious work. And then we use tools like I could actually I have a resource I can give out if that's something that you would
Yeah,
like.
we'd love to. We can put that in the show notes. Absolutely. We'd love it,
Cool.
Christian. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we call the seven deadly sins of the law of attraction, which means if you are using these wrong, it's not deadly. I guess it could be, but
Yeah.
uh, it's more like you're going to put massive roadblocks in your way. And it's very fine detail. So one of them specifically is away from motivation, which means if you were to ask somebody, why are you an entrepreneur? Why are you doing the things that you do? A lot of them, I would say, I don't know, probably like 80% would say, because I don't want X.
Mm.
What you're actually doing with that is building that thing that you don't want, because
Right.
resistance builds. And so it's a very sneaky little trap, but we have to adjust the mindset and the thinking in order to create the thing that you actually want.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah.
hard for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And just knowing, doing a little bit of work with the law of attraction and understanding what that is,
Mhm.
it was a concept for me to. So I struggled with that a little bit because like, but no, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. And
Right.
then once
Yeah.
I heard it, maybe the fifth or sixth time, I was like, oh, every time I say I don't want it, oh, I get it. And I think, for some people who are new to the work, it does take a little while to understand those nuances.
Absolutely. It's even for us, we fell into the trap recently. We're like, oh, we're actually moving this against ourselves. And
Mhm.
one way to think of this too is like, let's just use an extreme scenario, right? Let's say somebody's really scared of going broke, and they actually create that in their life. So they have very little money. Let's say in the pennies. Let's say 2 cents to their name or 3 cents to their name, and they're going to say, oh man, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to not be able to pay my bills. And they're literally creating that over and over again. The better way to think of that would be, instead of saying, I don't want to be broke, you would say, I'm so grateful that I have 3 cents instead of 2.
Mhm.
Right. And so that's what I mean by truthful positive thinking, as opposed to inflated psychology, which would be, I'm going to be a millionaire next week or next month or next year, when that's not the case, and it's probably not even close.
Mhm.
Right. So we can guide the thoughts in order to create the things that you want by leveraging this type of thinking,
Mhm.
and simultaneously subconscious work as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. Thank you for investing that time and explaining it because I think it really sets the foundation for
For
the
sure.
next part of the conversation, which is really taking it to the next level with technology and some of the things that you guys are doing with your clients. And
Mhm.
when I found out about it, I thought this is exactly what my audience needs to hear because so
Nice.
many of us are in the entrepreneurial space and we're just ready for the next jump. So I know there's a lot of things that you can provide and share with our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So so we move into, okay, now you're getting the mindset work done. That aspect is being built. Your capacity to handle more wealth or more success, or whatever that is, more money, uh, those are being adjusted through subconscious and conscious mindset technology. Now we move into, okay, what's the mechanism that brings that in? The mechanism is simply a business. It could be, right. We specifically do online business, all pretty much high ticket. So right now we have packages that go from anywhere from about 4K to about 50K, and validated each one of those. The sales process for those are almost the same for every single thing. The difference is the problem that you solve. So for a 50K package, we solve a much different problem in a faster environment than a 4K package.
Mhm.
And so what we need to establish, think about like this, when we start to move into those mechanisms that bring in the money, think about this concept: garbage in, garbage out, right? So what we need to do is make sure that what we put into the thing at first, the foundation of the thing, is a masterpiece.
Mhm.
When we create that foundation and we create that masterpiece, then we can start to validate. Once we've validated, then we can start to automate.
Mhm.
And so we can use technology, machines, whether it's software or automation or those types of things. And now we can start to create this evergreen, we call it a flywheel, that just pumps new prospects in and creates clients on the outside, and then
Mhm.
fulfillment on the outside as well, like making sure that they get a really great result. Really, really, really important for every entrepreneur, because that's what builds your confidence.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people go wrong by trying to sell so much. We try to provide a Disneyland experience, which we don't have to go and get so many prospects or so many clients because they love working with us. They get good results, and they invest every time we come up with a new program or a new way of doing things. They come and invest it in that because they love that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're able to do less work and create more impact, more income simultaneously because we have automation, because we've validated things, and because we've taken that concept of masterpiece in, masterpiece out. Now let's start to remove the time involved with the desired result.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think that the idea of automation and just being able to leverage technology to save time is probably something that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if you're doing it all yourself, if you're
Mhm.
doing your email, your calendaring, your discovery calls, your invoicing, all that stuff, there's little
So much.
capacity to create that masterpiece. It's overwhelming.
Yep, absolutely. And
And how do your what's the majority of the need that you see that in the space, I mean, that people are coming to you? Is it services? Are there coaches? Is it what type of content are you guys really specializing in, or you're seeing this growth happen?
we work with primarily coaches, or anyone, I should say anyone that wants to move into high ticket. And it's a lot of
Okay.
coaches right now. The coaching industry is just absolutely just blowing up. And we also work with a lot of agency owners as well because they're interested in the tech that we have. We invest a lot in software. We invest a lot in building systems. We work with a couple different dev companies. And the reason why we've done this is because we wanted to create a program that focuses on the most important part, which is going to be the energy and the mindset, while these systems are either working or being built for them. So
Mm-hmm.
these two ideas mixed together, we call it fusion. That's the name of our program. But we mix these two ideas together because we know absolute certainty that they are required in order to go to this level of business and impact. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to go to multi 6, 7, and even 8 figures, these are the areas that are required to do that.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So really your offerings start with the mindset work, and
Mhm.
then we get into the how, or the magic, as you shared earlier, of how to make all that come together.
Yep. That's the mechanism that brings it in. And the best way to do it is definitely high ticket, in my opinion. Kind of like the Tesla model. You start with the most expensive thing that you could create that solves the biggest problem that you can help people with. And then you start to work your way down and build smaller little branches of that thing,
Mhm.
and kind of go for more mass volume at that. But
Mhm.
we always start with the highest ticket prices possible. Right now, we teach clients to start at 10K plus and move up to 30, 40, or 50K into luxury offers. Those are a little bit different depending on what it is, but the primary focus with our what we call extracting the offer, where we actually build an offer like that for a client, is we have to focus on, number one, the psychology involved, mainly with this idea. And when we start to look at sales, of not what's the pain, but what's the loss
Mm.
of somebody not joining your program, right? So
Yeah.
the loss for a lot of entrepreneurs, if we work with them, the loss is going to be time freedom and also more wealth, right?
Yeah.
So what's the loss, and how do we present that in a way where they can clearly see that it's a better deal for them to work with us or work with our clients, even at a 10K plus price point?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. And, some for some people, just the idea of 10K, 30K, 50K offerings is just mind boggling. They just can't even fathom it. But I think if you've done the work ahead of time, that mindset work, like you said, before that fusion happens, then all of a sudden it becomes possible and you get excited about it. And then it just energetically, like you said, it just starts to all come together as one cohesive piece.
Absolutely. And that's why we built a program like that, is because the mindset required, first it's the calling, then it's the confidence, right? Then you start to gather some momentum. And just think about this. If you had a 20K offer where you legitimately solved a 20K problem, that's the key,
Yeah.
right? Legitimately solve a 20K problem. 4 of those a month is 80K per month. That's right around a million per year, right? So only 4 sales a month. And so that right there like taking an entrepreneur from, it could be a startup, right? It just depends on the problem that they solve. It could be a startup. We work with mostly intermediate or advanced entrepreneurs, but it could be a startup. And if we move into a 20K offer and our goal is to enroll 4 per month and hit to 80K per month, that's not too hard to do. It just depends on the problems that you solve and how you position that offer.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, because I know, Christian, we're running out of time, but I do want to ask, how do you help folks identify that problem? Or do they need to come to you with that problem already identified?
Really, really good. Great question. I love this. So it's not up to me. It's up to the market.
Mm-hmm.
What we do is we find and gather the pain points or the ideas that people are struggling through in the market. And then we see what other people are charging. And then we see how we can take that to 2x,
Mm-hmm.
right? What can
Got
we
it.
do? What can we add on top of that? Usually it's, let's say somebody wants to lose weight. And think of it like this: the bottom part of the market, the most saturated, the biggest part of the market is going to be the person that wants to lose weight. That's just the everyday person, right?
Sure.
But then the top part of the market, which is the easiest part to tap into, but the smallest, is going to be the athlete that wants to slim down just enough so they can go to the next level with their performance. And so right there is a market that we can tap into. One, they're willing to spend the money. Two, they're probably investing already. Three, we just need to find the problem that they are going through and that they desperately want to solve. And four, we need to justify why we would charge 20K to do that, or 40K, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. So we kind of look at like, what's the market sophistication level? What's the price in the market right now? And what can we do and how can we present that? It's not necessarily like a sales process or a sales system. It's more of like a problem solution process and system.
Mm-hmm. I love it. That's fantastic. Well, Christian, how can people work with you? What's the best way to get a hold of folks? And while you're sharing that, I'm going to put on the screen here for those of you watching on Facebook and YouTube, highticketsystems.io. The link will also be in the show notes for those who listening on the podcast. But Christian, tell us how people can work with you and just figure out if you and your team are the right fit for them.
Yeah, really good question. So the first step is finding us on social media. My handle is Christian Rais, Rais. It's on Instagram, Christian Rais, or Facebook as well. And then High Ticket Systems, what I'll do is I'll leave a little opt-in box. You can just opt in. We'll give you some fantastic resources to get started, understanding what we do and where we can potentially help you. And then usually what we do is hop on a call and see if it's a good fit for everyone in the room. No pressure, usually not a sales conversation at first. It could be. We've had people say, hey, we want in. What's it going to take? What's it going to cost? And we're like, okay, let's do it. But usually it's a 15-minute call. And what we do is we have a look at your business. We kind of diagnose where you're at and where your mindset's at. And then we can give you some resources on the call, or we can point you in a direction that would be best suitable for both of us in the room.
Awesome. All right, Christian, thank you so much for joining us on Saturday Soundbites. I loved the conversation, and I'm so excited that our audience is going to have an opportunity to learn more about you and your business.
I love it. Thank you so much, Veronica.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that wraps up this episode of Saturday Soundbites. And make sure you reach out to Christian Escobedo. His information is definitely in the show notes. We want you to have all the resources you need to grow your business and really be the business owner you were meant to be. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode of Saturday Soundbites. Make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes of the podcast. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments and we'll be sure to circle back. I'm going to be ending with sending you lots of positive energy and light.